Hello, I'm Brent Joyce, Chief Investment Strategist at BMO Private Investment Council. It's Thursday, May the 1st. Welcome to our Global Markets Commentary. April brought extreme swings in world equity markets. After tumbling 10 to as much as 15% in the opening days of April, global equity markets rebounded smartly. By month end, most markets had recovered the lion's share of April's early swoon. Bond markets were wild too, but on a year-to-date lens, they are delivering safety to portfolios. All told, the return for a prototypical, balanced, well-diversified Canadian investor was a 1 to 2% decline in April, but it is sitting near flat on the year. There were many moving parts to the markets in April. The quick take is that consumers and businesses were strong heading into the tariff debacle. There are fears this may change quickly, but to date, there is scant hard evidence, just conjecture based on sentiment surveys. Peak tariff shock looks to be behind us as trade rhetoric on all sides is calming down. Inflation continues to cool, but here again, surveys of future expectations have shot up on tariff fears. What is frustrating is a great deal of the economic data of late is either stale or disrupted by tariff front-running, especially imports and purchases, both of which feed heavily into GDP readings. Throughout the past 3 months, we've held the belief that the most aggressive policies of the new U.S. administration are at odds with accomplishing their goals. We also feel that what is achievable, sustainable, and congruent with the laws of supply and demand in a modern capitalist system will be revealed in the fullness of time. April brought evidence that this is playing out. What stood out for us in April was the reaction in the U.S. Treasury market. We see this as the most important feedback loop. We'll spare the mechanics of bond yield term premiums, but U.S. long bond yields rose enough in early April to get policymakers to change their hardline tune. Governments don't own stocks, so equity market declines are tangential feedback. Governments borrow money in the bond market, and the U.S. borrows a lot. Rising yields have a direct impact on government finances. U.S. bond yields rose in April not for reasons primarily related to inflation or economic growth, but because the very things that underpinned the U.S.'s attraction as a safe haven were perceived to be weakened. Things like an adherence to its checks and balances that are embedded in the Constitution, but also a commitment to price stability as anchored inflation is threatened when central bank independence is threatened. The U.S. as a place where the rule of law reigns supreme feels threatened when the administration muses about ignoring court rulings. Unelected officials cutting departments and programs previously authorized by Congress feels like Congress isn't performing the oversight role of the executive branch as defined in the Constitution. It isn't our intent to debate or rabble-rouse these issues. Our opinion isn't what counts. In our view, the issue is less about one's opinion on the merits of various policies, but the strength of the U.S. system through which the changes are implemented, a system that people have grown to trust for close to 250 years. So what matters is the world's perception of these strong institutions and traditions that sit at the heart of why the U.S. is an attractive place to invest. April saw that question being asked by some, whether the strength of these institutions and traditions may be weakening. To us, the actions that followed the rise in U.S. bond yields are what matters most, strengthening our resolve that important feedback loops remain intact. Consider that after bond yields rose, tariff matters were walked back. The President's criticism of the Federal Reserve was dialed down, although not eliminated. Legal actions are moving through the courts. Members of Congress are becoming more vocal on fiscal issues. And even the leadership of DOGE is planning to spend more time at his other day job. After these actions, bond yields retreated from their highs. The path ahead is uncertain. It remains to be seen to what extent the changes the U.S. wishes to make become a lasting reality and the timeline for that to happen. Once it does, we can begin to assess how long it would take for businesses and consumers in the U.S. and across the globe to react and adapt to the new landscape. The fact that these important feedback loops are beginning to kick in is an excellent sign. Now, we may need to see more feedback, aka capital market volatility, in the months ahead before things settle down. But longer term, we remain confident in capitalism's ability to morph and adapt. As such, we remain willing and active participants in the capital markets, controlling what we can control, including our emotions and our behavior. We analyze the rest to understand the risks and opportunities that undoubtedly will be presented. That's how we saw the month of April 2025. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to you tuning in next month.